Alright, so what's something on my channel you've heard me say a million times besides the word fuck? Well, you've heard me say that we live in a backwards world, and I stand by that 100%. In fact, I've already proven it a million times. But I wanted to make this a standalone video because we have so many problems in this day and age, and most of them revolve around SJWs, of course, because they are the biggest threat to our humanity. And I wanted to bring up, because as we know, SJWs have destroyed pretty much every aspect of humanity and the way that we interact with the world. And one of the biggest things that I think, well, one of the most damaging things is the fact that everything now is backwards, as I've said, where we live in a backwards world. So I actually compiled a list of things that I could think of that they do and we say, even if it's an insult to them, that prove that we are living in a backwards world, because it's bad enough that SJWs are trying to take away our free speech, but they're even changing the definitions of words, and that causes even the average person to become very manipulated, and again, makes any possibility of growth or fixing this problem much more difficult, because if you can't even speak correctly, then what the fuck can you do? Here's a list of things, and you might find this funny, but it's really not when you think about it. For example, we refer to SJWs and people who destroy society as progressives. Why? Like, I know why we say it. It's because that's what they call themselves. They're progressive people working towards a different future. But the differences they're making are damaging our society, so they're not really progressive because we're not progressing in our future. Our future is actually regressing, which means that we should be calling these people regressives, not progressives. And again, that's just one example of how we live in a backwards world. And on the exact same merits, if we're trying to talk about somebody who's incredibly stupid, someone who's an SJW, somebody who's trying to take who we are as human beings and bring us back by destroying movies, music, media, TV shows, comedy, literally everything, we actually refer to these people as woke. Again, in what way are you awake by doing things wrong and backwards and stupid? These people, in reality, are asleep. It's people who are against SJWs and are trying to save society and are trying to say, you know, who are trying to point out that it's racist to hate white people, or that it's idiotic to complain about every fucking movie ever made, or to complain about things that happened 20, 30 years ago. Those are all bad things that SJWs do. So they are not woke for doing those things. They are asleep. People like me and many other people who are anti-SJW and are trying to save the world, we're the woke ones. So again, backwards world. The next one is how SJWs say that biology is a choice. No, biology is not a choice. Biology is in your fucking genes. It's in your chromosomes, and that's not a choice that is decided for you. The next thing they say is that racism is natural. Again, the total fucking opposite. Racism is not natural. Racism is a fucking choice. Racism is a decision that you make to hate somebody based on their skin color. You can't just naturally hate somebody based on their skin color. Now again, I know why SJWs say this. Because SJWs believe that racism is based on what your skin color is. So for example, SJWs believe that all white people are racist. Why do they think this? Is because they think that having white skin is a racist thing. And you can't choose to be white, therefore you don't choose to be racist. But any person with half a brain knows that's not the fucking definition of racism, and that racism is in fact a choice, but again, backwards world. The next thing is how they try to change sex and gender. Now, I already made a video talking about the differences between sex and gender, but again, that is yet another example of something that they have taken the definitions of and switched them, and again, backwards world. SJWs also believe that rape is not a physical act. We will literally have feminists now who will call out rape if a man approaches her, talks to her, touches her on the shoulder, buys her a drink. But again, to any rational, sane human being knows that rape is a physical, sexual act and not just touching a woman on the shoulder. So again, backwards world. Another thing is that they actually call their beliefs, like, you know, when somebody is an SJW and they're doing all these horrible things like all white people are racist and the patriarchy is a thing, or that manspreading is a thing, and all, or cultural appropriation is a thing. All of these things are what they call politically correct. But again, they're not correct. These things are wrong. So they're not politically correct, they are politically incorrect. Again, backwards world. What about what we call them? We call them social justice warriors. But again, they're not fighting for social justice. They think they are, but the result of what they do actually damages social justice by, again, the whole list of things about, you know, awful things they do. They think they're fighting for social justice, but they're actually fighting against it by being total fuck-ups. So no, they're not social justice warriors, they are social injustice warriors. Yet again, backwards fucking world. And finally, they believe that feminism is equality and that MRA is sexist. Well, quite frankly, both sides can be sexist, but if you look at it in a literal sense, MRA is far less sexist. Because, as we know by definition, a feminist is not a person working for equality. They are, in fact, women's rights advocates. And MRA is a men's rights activist. However, the reason why MRA is less sexist is because men actually are more oppressed than women, therefore to fight for men's rights makes more sense. And if you don't want to put a label of female or male, just say that you're an egalitarian, therefore you're for equality of everybody. But the point is that, again, backwards world, because they think that feminism is the equality thing, even though it's actually women only, and MRA is sexist, yet they're working to bring men back up to where women are. So again, we're working in reverse. My point is quite simple, but it's a lot deeper than just simply pointing out a few terms. If we continue to use words with a backwards definition, then all you're really doing is helping the SJWs, or I guess I should be calling them SIW for injustice, and you're giving them help because you're almost complimenting them, right? Because if I say, like, an SJW is so progressive and woke, well, that's actually a pretty good sentence. You're saying they are progressing and that they're woke, aka smart, but they're not. You know, we should stop using terms like that are meant to be insulting but are actually complimenting them for doing something wrong. It's dumb. It may just seem like a term, but it has a deeper meaning than that. But what do you think?